Hi everyone, welcome to episode 3 of Talk Show in-house. So in Talk Show, we basically discuss every and anything, and the purpose is to catch cruise and just laugh and bant and have a good time. Um, Thank you for listening to episode 1 and 2, episodes 1 and 2. We really appreciate your support. We essentially just started to test the waters with this new segment. And yeah, we appreciate your listenership, if there's any English like that. Okay, so episode 3, we're actually going to be discussing a follow-up to what we've discussed in episodes 1 and 2, which basically still navigates around parenting and children. And so our topic for this episode is a question. Are children really born empty? So I think we want to take this from like two sides, right? In terms of like talent, gifts, and the likes, and in terms of their minds, or how their minds work and function. So I'm going to be asking Nesochi, do you think that, let's just even start with that. Do you think that children are born like blank, empty, clueless?
No, I don't. I don't think so.
Why do you think not?
Because I'm a very strong believer of purpose. Right. I don't think we just happen to be on earth. I believe that everybody came to this earth for a purpose. Right. And let's look at every other thing that was created. For instance, let's look at a knife. So a knife was created for the purpose of cutting. Okay, let's use a bread knife to be specific. So there are some when a bread knife is created.
Yeah.
When a bread knife is created, it is created with those properties to help facilitate the purpose for which it was created, to help achieve, if a bread knife doesn't have sides that are sharp, and then in those ways the way bread knives are, then it won't be able to fulfill that purpose. And it's the same way with we who were created. Like for a lot of people have different ideologies of whether it is God in heaven that created us or whatever religious affiliations
we evolved from monkeys.
And all of that, but we at least most of the world have come to the realization that we were actually created. I think what's the problem is now who created us and all of that. So I believe that we were created for a purpose, and just like the bread knife, we have things in us that have been deposited there, both physically, mentally, and otherwise, to help us achieve that purpose. Now, that does not say that your environment does not affect, the way you end up. That does not say that the people around you, your parents, and all those things. Well, let me use myself as an example. So, as I was thinking about this topic today, I remembered that when I was much younger, there are a lot of things I've tried to do, like a lot of things I had flair for, and I had all the opportunity in the world to learn them. One of them is drawing. I love to draw, and I cannot draw. Like I just loved. I love people who can sit down. It's very amazing to me that you can sit down, look at something, and then recreate it, on a piece of paper. And then I remember at the point when I was in primary school, this is my very close friend Toby Olusole. He was now telling me that it's not everybody that can draw. Some people can trace. So I started buying this. There's this type of paper, this soaked in kerosene. They usually then for just the purpose of tracing. So when you place it on a surface, you can see whatever it is you want to trace. I tried tracing, and in fact, it was so terrible. You could easily tell that this is not for this guy. Right. And there are some people that can just draw right from when they are small. Another thing is dancing. I've tried dancing. I've attended dancing lessons. My body is not just wired to dance. Right. But there are some other things that I have. For instance, I play musical instruments. I talk. These are things that I haven't necessarily gone through any serious training, but I just feel that they came is follow come. When they say follow come, it's follow come, and everybody has their own follow come. There are some people that when they are so young, you hear of people that finish university at the age of 14, people that at the age of 9 they are solving some very intense mathematics and all of that. I remember
Yeah.
Kenneth when we were in SS1, Kenneth was solving like university calculus and stuff like that.
Hey,
GI2, one of our
mathematics.
friends in school then.
But
Yeah,
okay,
GI
what are you
was
saying now?
according
Why
to
you the
what our vice
exaggeration?
principal told us then, as I went.
So,
No, it's the truth now. It's the truth.
it's true. Why
Kenneth
the
was
exaggeration now, guy?
one of the
Calm
first
down.
people. Kenneth was one of the first people to have 100/100 in further maths. He was celebrated. He's just trying to
Eh?
be. He's just trying
He's
to
trying to be
be
humble.
humble.
I
uh
beg, I
And
beg.
those are people. Somebody like me now. I've struggled with maths all my life. Probably the same
Yeah.
teachers, the
Mhm.
same level of training that Kenneth has had, I've even had, and maybe more, because I've had all kinds of lesson teachers, the good, the bad, the ugly, the serious, the unserious, all kinds, just to
Mm.
get me in that math mode. But I never got it. And I'm sure that he may not have put as much effort as I did. There's also this guy, GI. GI is like a genius. Like when he was in GS2, according to our vice principal, he was already solving like SS3 math and all those things. So those are things that, and of course now he's into engineering, electrical and all those things. So those are things now he's on the path of fulfilling his purpose, and those things
Mhm.
that came with him, you know, you can see them in play. So yeah, I
Mm.
don't believe that we're just born and then as you start growing. Of course, there are some things we start getting when we're born. For
Mhm.
example, nobody is born a Christian or born a Muslim. When you're born and then you get into maybe a Christian family and then you're sensitized into saying this is God,
Yeah.
Jesus is our God or Allah is our God and all those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Religion is one of those things that does not come with anybody. Your society affects it. Also, your language. Nobody is
Mm.
born speaking English. Nobody is born speaking
Mm.
French and all those things.
Yeah.
So we have
Yeah.
those factors. We still have those things that are not that don't come with us. But then we're talking about like our gifts. Some the way some people think. You just know that like three people going to the same school from primary, secondary, university, somebody will be thinking differently. It's just a function of how they were packaged from
Yeah.
from creation. So yeah, and to go the Bible way, the Bible says that while you were still in your parents' womb, I in your mother's womb, I formed you, and I knew
Yeah.
you, and all those things.
Mm.
So that's to tell you
Mhm.
that like everybody is intentional, and
Mm.
how something is intentional is by the properties. So yeah, I don't
Mhm.
believe that are just born into the world empty. That's my take.
Awesome. Let me stop you there and ask Kenneth. Kenneth, do you think like children are born empty? Or what do you think about that phrase? Children are born empty. Do you think it's true?
Children are born empty. Hmm.
Yeah, like
Em-
blank.
em- Empty in what sense now? Like blank. Like what
Um,
do you like to
yes, like
say?
unaware of anything or without a sense of purpose or direction, just empty in terms of everything, their nuances, their ideologies, their mindsets, and all.
Okay, well, me, I don't. Okay, kind of. You're born empty is once you
Mm,
enter the world, then you start probably from your family and from relations, you start to get to know things. Then that's how it now forms in your life. So I
mm,
think actually most people are born empty. Is as you start to grow, you start to impact yourself with a lot of things.
mhm. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, what I think is, like this thing they always say, like, what children are born tabula rasa, right? Unaware of unaware of like anything, like they don't have any preconceived notion, they didn't come into the world with anything, right? So
Yeah.
I believe that. I also believe, like Nesochi said, right, that um there's a lot of like predestination that must have happened
Yeah.
before a child is born or conceived, in a sense. Like God, like Nessa said, God obviously has a purpose for everyone. Like there's something God put you on earth for. There's like a particular reason God made you to come and do something, right? There's something on this earth, there's something that He has put inside you that the world needs, right? And that is unique to only you. Even if there are like 500 people doing the same thing, or 500,000 people, or 5 million people doing the same thing, right? God still put that special thing in you, your personality and all the likes, right? For the world. So in that regard, I agree. I agree that everybody is born for a reason. Everybody is created for a reason. However,
Yes. So,
and so now we're going to like the second part of this discussion. I also believe that children are born tabula rasa. They are born without any ideologies of their own. And essentially, what kids know as normal is what the adults around them define to be normal, right? So that's why you
it's
can
what the
have like,
society. It's
yes,
what
and
the society.
society as well. Absolutely. So that's why you can have like children who have grown up in different places act different ways because they've
Yeah.
absorbed, ideologies from people around them and societies around them, right? So,
Yeah.
um, and that's why like you gotta be careful around kids because you don't know what they are hearing, you don't know what they're absorbing, you don't know what they are soaking in, right? You don't know what it is that they are listening to. So I believe that I have like a very photographic memory, right? Such that like I can recall things that I did not even know that I paid attention to, in a sense. Like I remember in primary school, I remember the names of all my classmates. I remember their birthdays. I remember my primary 2 teacher. I remember like the color of the top she wore when we were taking our group photo. I remember this boy, Victor. He literally threw me into the wall and I hit my head and like a big swelling came out of my head. I remember like words that were said in passing.
So you're like Tom and Jerry.
Wow, Musa. Wow, Musa is here, by the way. Welcome back.
Our president, you're back.
I came for the switchy. We came with God.
Oh,
It's a switchy here. The switchy, I'm here for you.
yes, he's here.
That's what I'll be waiting for your arrival.
Oh my God. The way people tackle each other, he's here, is Kuku here. Right, so like I was saying, right? So things that were said in passing, like arguments between adults, words that were said, in passing that I absorbed, that unknowingly absorbed and stuff, and all the likes and things like that, right? So, which is going to beg my next question. Who do you think is more responsible for like the ideologies that people end up having, they themselves or society? Let me give a context to my question. The reason I ask is this: at some point, you have to take control of your own thoughts, right? And
Exactly.
you can train your mind, right? So that's what I'm asking. Is it what society imposes on us that we end up that shapes us, or we ourselves? So who's more responsible, we or society? I think I'm going to start with Musa this time.
Okay, so I mean, can you just say the first question so I can pack it two into one?
Okay, so my first question was, do you think that children are born empty, blank, with nothing in mind, right? That's one. Secondly, who do you think is more responsible for the ideologies that we end up adopting? Society or us?
Okay. So yeah, like I believe that, people come not clean, right? I mean, there's nothing clean about you. Anyways, like you come fresh, right?
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Eh?
Right.
Even not because that's Sunday, maybe you don't shower now. If I ask you tomorrow, you say cheap laugh. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say is that like Tabula Rasa basically, as Ami said, in the sense that people, yes, right. I believe a different person in a different context, right, will have been a totally different human being, right? To start with. So for example, if I was raised as like I was born as an American to Nigerian parents, right? In fact, funny for them my mouth right now, but like there's not a ton of funny inside of me. Right, for example. And like for me, like with my short years and my very foolish reasoning, what I've realized is that human being in essence are experiences. And I think when Nosuchi says that we have a purpose, right? I think it's the point whereby your experiences hit the need for a particular idea to come to fruition. Let me just explain what I mean by that. So the context to which you grow up, right? Like I mean, say that push you to the wall, they form you in one way or the other, right? Okay, let me use the concept of the soul. I mean, if you understand what the soul is, right? I don't know, from both and probably spiritual, but then also like from a very observationist perspective. Like the soul at the end of the day, right, is the mind, the will, and the emotions. And when we now look at these three components, right, which is that's your true self in essence. I mean, obviously, like, there's the body, and then there's the other one, right? There's the spirit, depending on which side of the divide you're looking from, anyways. But then we are experiences in the sense that, like I believe the connection to spirituality and the connection to the human realm are the two forces, right, that influence the soul. So based on the, will I say, the aggregated battle, right, or like what is happening, from the guy that you cannot see but is you. I mean, the whole quote, the concept of yourself, like really, who is Ami, right? I mean, the bodily flesh that we're seeing, is a form of Ami, right? So in quotes is the image of yourself. But when I really ask you, who are you, right? Where like the experiences makes Ami. So the hitting on the wall by that guy makes Ami, right? The one that remembering from our last episode, that your mother will make you to wear your clothes, right? Makes Ami. Ami that is an extrovert, right, makes Ami. So it's like all of these things makes who you are. And then when I say like the ideas, right, is when your experiences, your individual self, so not the image of yourself now, but like the experiences of yourselves now encounters a particular idea. What I mean by this is that, okay, you grew up as a Nigerian, right? And then one day, through observation, like probably you're just looking at the road and you're like, what type of nonsense is this? How can I be going from Ejo Elegba to Lekki and like all the road is bad? Like this is wrong now. Like, so you start the experience of bad road, right? For example, will now start leading you to making observations that will now connect emotionally, right, to frustration. And I think those two things, like observation plus the emotional connection to the observation, right, will now lead you towards, the potential for an insight. I think by the time you get the insight, that is when the capacity to have, quote, a purpose, right, or quote, that thing that Nesoti is talking about, right, can be alive. And I think that is where, right, the transition from I am just experiencing and I am just, quote, experiences, right, to I am, now, quote, a person with purpose, right, is the ability for a person, right, to connect their experiences, like to observe through their experiences, right, the ability, through their experiences, emotional connections to a problem. And that problem pushes them both emotionally, right, and body-wise and action-wise, right, to start to work towards a thing. I think that is the thing that will now believe to be, I was made for this thing, or this is what I was made for. But I think, it's fundamentally about your experiences. I mean, an American mind is not trying to solve the problem in Nigeria, right? Americans are
for sure.
Nigerians are trying to solve
Yeah.
So, and an American man will tell you, I feel like I was born to do this, right? The guy is probably trying to put street lamp in the whole of Massachusetts or something, right? Or in Nigeria, the guy, like one guy in Abia State, is probably trying to like clean his whole environment. And the guy will literally tell you, like, I feel like I was born to clean the environment, right? Obviously, like it is valid because those are his experiences, right? But like fundamentally, it was not really about him. It was about the idea that like an environment has to be clean. That was the point. But through his experiences, right, he was the one that got the insight of this idea and this quote pop that Nesuch is talking about. Let me just stop here, sir.
Don't they preach, they go. Right. So I mean, which begs my next question, right? So I would start with Kenneth. So Kenneth, before I ask my question, let me just say I came across this on Twitter a while back that the way your parents reacted to you
What were
breaking a
you
pillow.
doing in the wilderness?
waiting with this. Like, I saw a tweet, and that tweet said the way your parents reacted to you, or the way they acted, or what they did to you when you broke a plate, kind of has shaped you more than you actually know, right? So if they yelled at you or they beat you silly for what is a mistake or what was a mistake, right? That has kind of left a sort of imprint in your mind, right? That sort of shaped you even much more than you realize. So I want to ask Kenneth, right? What measures, or what are the things that you think you would put in place as a parent, right, to ensure that even if your kids are going to imbibe anything, it's not anything negative, right? Because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of madness flying around in the world. But what are you going to do to ensure that what they imbibe from you is limited or eradicated? So, like, how do you intend to be a parent that provides an environment where your kids are not their ideologies are not being shaped wrongly as a result of your actions towards them?
Okay, so as I was saying, like we now youths, or when we're younger before, whenever our parents like correct us by beating us, we always like get offended. Probably have siblings. You guys will just have this discussion that me, if I marry, I cannot be treating my child like this and all. Like then we didn't really see the use of them beating us for this small thing we just did. So
Yeah.
so me, I feel like it's actually inevitable. If they do it like more than once, more than twice, then you can just lose your cool. Like you have to beat them to correct them. But then also you can also like just punish them that you always beating them, because once you keep on beating them, and once you beat a child and you don't tell him the reason for doing this, they will
Yeah.
never learn. They will
Yeah.
never learn.
I
They
agree.
think they think you just hit them, like you just want to beat them. And most times, obviously, no one wants to like be destructive intentionally unless you're possessed. Most times, it's always a mistake. Probably you're always playing. You're rough. You're not calm. So, and some children, they cannot control that. Probably just because of how they are. They're hyperactive. So me as a parent, but if I understand that this is how my
Exactly the way
child.
they came with that hyperactive nature.
Exactly. So if I know this how my child is, I'll try to understand him, and I'll try to find a better way than always beating him for something he cannot control at that age. So I don't. Yes. So then I'll just find a better way to handle it than always beating for something he cannot control.
I agree.
Yes.
Musa, I also want you to answer that question.
So parents, is that it?
Yes.
Basically, can you say the question again? Because I was trying to understand what Kenneth was saying. Sorry.
So what are the things you think you'd put in place so that your kids, like I said, right? So that your kids don't imbibe, or their ideologies about life are not skewed or are not faulty as a result of how you parented them. So let me give like another example. So for the most part, children whose parents flew off the handle and overreacted when they told the truth about the situation are most likely to lie about another situation if they are asked, right? Because they know that if they say the truth, their parents will bring down the roof. Or children whose parents didn't, like, they were overparented, or their parents caged them or didn't allow them go out and the likes, are most likely to go the extreme when they are given a little taste of freedom, in a sense. So like that's the context of the question I'm asking. So what kind of, how do you hope to parent in such a way that your kids, right, their ideology is not faulty as a result of how you parented them?
Okay. Sorry. Just to clarify on the question, right? So when you say skew, there's an assumption already at place, in the sense that there's a kind of, so there's a right? So I want you to define what the right is, so that we know what the skew is.
Right is essentially the right thing to things, right? The right approach to certain situations. So you should say the truth, regardless of what it will cost you. But if somebody has flown off the handle or has beaten the hell out of you because you said the truth about the situation, that's already skewing your approach to saying the truth, right? If there's a right amount of exposure that every child should have to the world, or to the outside world, right? But when you're caged, you're being kept. It's too extreme. So you're being kept. You're being caged. When you go outside, we are given a taste of freedom. It's very possible that you will go to the extreme with your freedom and not know when to stop. So that's like the skewed aspects, right? The right aspect is, okay, say the truth no matter what it will cost you. But there is a way to provide an enabling environment where kids just naturally imbibe that, right? Okay, you should go to your friend's place and back that this time you're only allowed 2 sleepovers in a month, and this, right? But caging them is kind of already skewing the right approach to these things. I don't know if you get.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I am I'm in a house where there are triplets.
Okay. Daddy Musa.
So I'm like, experientially, right? It has taught me so many things, like about myself, right? Because in real terms, right, when we're talking about children, it's not really about them; it's about you, right? Right. So, for example, if a child is, if you enter the house and the child basically has poured the whole yogurt in from the fridge on the floor, right? And they have used yogurts to dye their hair, right? And they're looking like Father Christmas or something. Like, it is about you in the sense that, right, you are the one reacting. Right? It's an external thing that has happened, right? But like, it teaches you. Parenting teaches you, I think, even though I'm not a parent, right, but like, I've experienced trying to be that kind of thing. It teaches you more about yourself, in my opinion, than it does in quotes who it is you say you're trying to help or whatever, right? So if you react by flogging, right, will it be that there are problems with your own patience, there are problems with your own ability to reason things out and just have better judgment? Will it be that you lack emotional intelligence, right? So all this kind of things. So just living, and trying to be in the midst of triplets, right? I've learned that. On the other side, I also learned that like, a lot of times we don't really see children as human beings. So like, I mean, we don't see them as individual human beings, like as human beings that have the right to their own life, right? We see it as if we want to tell them what to do, like they should be sheep, right? And like the sheep has no right, in quotes, to decide for itself. But like, they are sheep, right? But they are also going to become shepherds. So their children are just position at the end of the day.
Did they preach, Abby? Second service.
So at the end of the day, once we like just look at them as sheep, that's when we'll just be like, oh yeah, do this, oh yeah, do that, oh yeah, do this, right? I think that's why I was trying to understand where Kenneth was coming from, in the sense that, like, if a child is overreactive, and that is where, probably Tabula Rasa has its limitations, because I believe that, genes and just composition of, a person's, character and whatnot, right, has influences from the parents. This is also scientific, by the way. So I think, like, when that is happening, right, we have to take the position of, okay, I'm trying to understand another human being. The same way, for example, you go out to the streets and you see one adult trying to just shouting around on his phone or whatever, and you're like, with this man. So you're trying to understand, is the person on the phone that's making him angry, or is it like is he mad or something? So the way you understand adults, right, should be the approach we try and understand children. Because like, if we take that approach, what I have learned, like from my experience, right, be with kids, is that like, you get to know better how to respond to them, right? You get to know better like what it is per time that you need to give them. Sometimes, right, is shouting, like you need to tell them like stop. Sometimes really, like, you just need to pull them close and like sit down with them and talk to them as if they're adults, like, what's happening, like, why are you crying, what's wrong, right? And they will respond to you. But we tend to, like, we think children are idiots. That's the problem, right? But they are not. They have sense. If their sense is like, it's still mature, right? But they have sense, they can express themselves, and that's what, at the end of the day, one of the fundamentals that makes an individual. But Nesochi, I came for Nesochi, man. Like, the guns are for me.
I'm waiting.
I want to hear you now. I want to hear you, boss. Go ahead.
Yes, so necessary, your turn.
What exactly am I addressing now? Am I addressing the what will I do differently as a parent?
Yes.
Yeah, well, contrary to what Musa thinks,
Okay.
I'm strongly of the opinion that not only are we not born empty, we are born different. So
Preaching to
different
good sir.
needs,
Okay.
different
You're
needs for different
preaching.
different needs for different individuals. Let me give you this very swift example. So my neighbors just, in fact, if I shout too loud, they'll hear me. Just beside us here, they were delivered of twins. It's going to be a year now. I think last
Guys,
year.
you you talk out as if you're not even spirits. They were delivered of twins. What does that
Guys, this all happens when I don't pay attention in English class. Mr. TK taught us this thing, Musa.
Guy, no. I beg.
During that time. You see
You see all these English people, but Kenneth, you see them, all these English people. Come on, down at your business, guy. They sound like evil spirits they cast. Sorry, you.
I'm screaming. You people.
All right, so yeah, like I was saying, these people just beside us here, when they come over to play, like I find myself consciously or unconsciously, because I've always been marveled by the idea of twins, like two people who look alike, and these guys are so identical, they are guys. And I try to watch them, and they have different responses to the exact same thing. Let me give you an example now. So if you drop two balls, when they come, we normally used to spread the mat around that place where the staircase is, that side, that open space. We'll spread the mat around there, and then both of them will play. We'll put toys. So if you give both of them a ball, right? If you take one ball from this particular guy, is Jaden and Jalen. Those are their names. If you take the ball from Jaden and put it like away from him, like he's holding it, take it from his hand and push it away, he will just laugh and just feel like, okay, you're playing with it. Maybe you're trying to play fetch or something. Guy will follow it. If you take the ball that Jalen is holding from him, by the time he looks at you, he will just start crying. He's not interested in whatever play you want to play. He just wants to hold the ball. And these are people that, as at that time, they have not gone to any school to say, okay, they have met with different people. It's just a function of how they came. You understand? There's difference. And the difference in the individual connotes a difference in the demand. Like the demand for the fulfillment of their destinies, they are different. So you start looking at it from that point of view. Now, there's something I always used to tell my cousin's parents, now my auntie and her husband. They have 3 children. Now, they always beat all of them. Like, they always beat. But those 3 children have stayed with us. Like, they always come during the holiday. And I know from my experience with them, I know this particular guy, his name is Chimnaza. He's very quiet. He's the most quiet of all of them. If you are beating every other person, the worst punishment you can give that guy is just to sit him down. It's just separate from the rest of them for like a long period of time. If you do it for the remaining 2, they will still find a way to play with their nails or play with their hair or play with their feet. But if you do it for him, he can, after staying like 5 minutes, there's nobody to talk to, you start crying. So there's a difference, and what everybody needs to do, and personally, what I'm going to do is take out time to study your children. The problem with African parenting.
Take out time.
There's so cheap areas where we know no.
There's so cheap.
Yeah.
When it happen, who should be?
Musa, please don't distract me again.
So you have to make
right. So what's the problem? The problem I've realized with African parenting is that there's a lot of try and error. That's why you see most of the time people normally get it right with their second or third children, or you see that the person with the least scars is maybe the last child, who maybe the parents have seen that all these things didn't work. But if you actually take your time to study, you will see that you begin to understand what this child needs. And personally, for me, that study comes with, it's not just about studying them. First of all, studying different types. The whole of 2 weeks ago, my auntie that is a teacher, she was doing a presentation, so she had to do different things that are similar with different age groups, and so she was very busy, so she told me to help her do it. And like I just got so caught in the, about like reading about it. Even when I was done with what she needed me to do, I just kept on reading about it, and I started understanding a lot of things. So at this stage now, I have started even reading about like different types of children. Like like there are different types. They come in different kinds, different categories. This thing about what's it called? This thing about being an introvert and extrovert, even as little as 1 year, as little as 2 years, they begin to exhibit these characteristics. Like there are some children that once they are among, like just my younger brother now, once he's among other children, like the guy, he can lose control. He's just happy, playing. And I know people of his age that they grew up together, and once they are just on their own. So it's just all about studying to know, and we also need to equip ourselves so that when you study them, you know the right method. For example, I know the kind of children I'll give birth to, and I'll know, by the time they exhibit one or two things, by the grace of God and the things I have read so far and the things I'm going to read, I will know that, okay, this guy does not need too much beating. There are some people that you need to be very strict with. There are some people that you need to give a little bit of free space. Okay, just do this. It's not everybody. There are some children, you give them free space, they will turn the whole house upside down. There are some children, you give them free space, they'll be able to, manage themselves. So we just need to understand that these people do not actually come empty. We need to find out what was the default setting of this guy. How did he come, and how can I relate with him based on his default setting? That's my take.
I think that's very beautifully put, to be honest. Very beautiful. That's very beautiful. I think for me, like, Nesochi said, just find out how they are wired, right? And parent them accordingly. I read something today, I watched something today rather on Twitter, and it essentially was trying to say that, no two kids, although they are born to the same parents, no two children evoke the same responses from their parents because they are different, right? So what my elder brother, the side of my dad and my elder brother would evoke, right? I will not, because I'm different from him. We have different personalities, different temperaments. We're just not the same. The way we approach situations are very different. And so to, generalize or, parent us generically, or to parent your first child, to parent your second child the way you're parenting your first child would be a huge mistake, right? So I think that's so important, right? I think, what Nesushi said was very, very, very important. And I feel like a lot of people really need to listen to this. Right. Okay, guys.
What may I believe? Can I ask something?
Yes, please, can I?
I feel like if whenever you want to even though you want to beat your child, you should always go back and correct and tell them this is what you did. This is what you did wrong, and this is what you do next time. Like this is something I learned from my dad. Like anytime he beats me, even shout at me or scold at me, he always tells me what I did wrong and tell me I shouldn't do that again. Like he still makes me understand that one day I'll grow to be a father. I'll understand it. I'll live my own life. So like you just have to learn the hard way. So
I agree. I think the important part of correction is ensuring that they understand what's going on, right? So that they're not just beating and beating and beating and beating and beating. Because at the end of the day, it's futile if you just plugging them. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Jenna.
They'll just beat their child down and feel like they're meant to know why they're beating them. Some people say they will show them let's say like it's a plate they broke. They'll beat them like animals. I'm like, I see the plate you beat that you broke, then they now beat you again as if you're an animal or something.
Yeah.
Hi.
Some people, the sole reason why some people are in therapy today is because of how they were raised, though. Low key, low key,
Yeah.
low key. So I feel like it's important to like don't be a parent that your child has to heal from, right? Don't be a parent that your children have to go to therapy to recover. Like some people are literally recovering from their parents, from how they were raised, and yeah, that's just very sad. But yeah, I trust that we're going to be better. We're going to do better, and we're going to make conscious efforts, of course, by God's grace. So because all now just talk because low key until you born.
Well, it's easier said than
Yes,
done.
they talk. Where you born, you gonna say, no be just talk. But yeah, this has been fun. Thank you guys for joining and participating. This has been a fantastic third episode. Join us again next week for episode
Yeah.
4. And check out our other podcast segments. We have My Startup Story, we have Aspirants, we have Constitution. So be sure to check that out. And while you're at it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all our social media platforms, and share our posts to friends, right? Don't be selfish. Don't keep good things to yourself. All right, till we see you again next week. Stay safe, stay jiggy, stay happy, be good, be nice, be cute, and all of that good stuff. All right, guys. Bye.
Yo, bye bye. That's so cheap.
Yeah.
Okay, like we're not actually saying different things, Sha.
Yeah. Me with you.
Because for just use one bullet right now, like this, but it's okay. I don't put back my gun, no fear.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
And Musa has agreed with what I'm saying, so we can close.
We have agreed,
Let's close the
we have
service.
agreed with each other. Don't make it a war. I've agreed, sir. No, Allah.
Uh-huh. So you can spread the news now and act accordingly.
I beg, bye bye. You people, please. Goodbye.
This guy,
Bye,
not
guys.
not talk too much. Oh, you're not a dad yet. Don't let your words go ahead of you.
No, yes, of course. That's why like everything I always see, I always bring, the Holy Spirit into the conversation, because like it's not just about knowledge, right? But knowledge is the beginning. So there's this thing that they will say when we're in school, then that when you're writing exams, you pray for the Holy Spirit to bring to your remembrance. But if there's nothing you have read, there's nothing for him to remind you of. It's the same way, like at this time, this is us reading and gathering, engaging in this kind of conversations, building ourselves up, getting there. And then when you get there, of course, you're going to need the help of the Holy Spirit to remind you and help you to put all these things into practice. But if there's nothing you know about it, he's not a magician, right? So that's just his.
Yeah, but at the same time, I also feel like like something that really needs to be spoken about, right? Is really like the change of times, and what I mean is that like when we become parents, right? Parenting will mean a very different thing, right? And because probably like our parents, I mean, there were no external things like that. I mean, I grew up, for example, up until I was 8 years old, right? Where like everybody can go to everybody's house. Like you can go to your neighbor's house, where like despite religion, despite anything, like it was a real community, like in the real sense of the word community, right? Like I've experienced that in my life. And so, another person's, I can't even misbehave like that, self, because another person's mother might be watching me, another person's father might be watching me, and like they too can correct me from elsewhere, and everybody knew everybody, right? So it was like a community, like the community kind of was in quotes also your
So you're
parents.
like a community project.
What everybody was a community project, more or less. Like I don't know how you grew up, Shalak, how it was like when you grew up. But that was how it is. So the idea of like Africa, like to raise a child, it takes a village, blah blah blah, right? So that kind of community was.
And I get you. I totally get you. Although I didn't really have that, because okay, I had that where I was like in Port Harcourt. like my neighbors, so we just come out. At the time, they were looking for one of them, so and all of us. I remember that they were just outside. It was funny, but yeah, but then when we came to Abuja, like a different, coming to the north and all those things.
So what? Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that like when we become parents, right? Like the world will be so different from the world we grew up in. Like your kids now have a constant distraction. Like probably by that time, all schools will be like digital, and yeah, like it has its perks, but then like we don't factor in the change, right? In like how human beings in themselves are changing through the introduction of certain elements, right? And I think like that also influences like how parenting should be. Because, for example, if your child has an iPad or like if your child has a tablet or whatnot, right? And like in school, they have, it's all digital as well, or immediately, right? You can feel as a parent that my child is busy. But the problem is that you don't even know what is forming your child, because you might not know all the contents that the child is consuming, right? But like compared to us, like our parents could literally know what it was that was consumed. Like they could identify, okay, maybe in this particular week, you started going out with one friend from one particular family, right? And like that guy is very notorious. So they can say, you have started to go and meet person X, right? I saw the two of you. You're not getting his
You have
behavior.
bad gang.
Exactly. So like, but the thing is that they know the bad gang. But like in our generation, like that is the thing. The rate at which change will occur will make us miss what the bad gang is and who is the bad gang leader, right? So we don't even know how to address like who you are going to, because you don't even know who it is that really they are going to, because you have access to so many things. Exactly. So I think that we need to actually start having conversations about these things that are changing, and like how we have to start getting ready, right? I mean, extremes are not good. So we can't just say like, no, we banned all iPads. Like that's foolish, because like the world will be moving there. So you just need to balance it at the end of the day, right? But like then the question is, how do you actually balance it and take it into account in such a way that the values, right, that you want to instill on your children still remain, despite the fact that they have to aggregate with this world that is moving in this particular direction. Also, not to make them like useless in society, useless, like for work purposes, economic purposes, right, to sustain their own lives.
That's true. But this parenting thing is good that like at this stage we're having these conversations, and I hope like it really reaches out to people. But then if all of us, even if it's just we're 4, 2 or 3, and like if we're all getting it right in our own different corners, then like it will spread. And that's just the thing about anything. So we just continue to pray. Me, I'm all about prayer, because just like you said, it's all these things. There are so many people that there are so many people now that if they tell them that, oh, you have gotten it right, that's parental, they can commit suicide, because all that is in their mind is that they have done all the things that maybe their parents told them, they have followed all this. They see no reason why like it should go wrong. But honestly, it's not, just like the Bible says, the race is not to the swift. Parenting is not to who prepare most. You get, so we'll continue to pray and hope that our generation is preserved.
Yeah, like you go anywhere you go, you don't go. You go turn on Christian podcast, my guy. Why for don't understand Bible? If they talk to you.
Oh
Right now, G.
God! All right, now
like,
we didn't get.
the post
We didn't.
conversation where we have self.
Eh?
And see the post conversation where we have, and it's still the record. I don't even know.
It's a good thing, and listeners will enjoy it.
Oh,
You can just add it. You can just add like, say maybe in the description, like there's a 20 minutes post, discussion.
No. Let
those
them find out. Now who they wait for good thing or receive the good thing.
True. All right, now.
Oh, no.
All right, guys. Bye bye, everybody. Thank you for staying this long.
If they stay.
No, they stayed. I can see one guy laughing now. They stayed.
That would be the such a song. Bye.
Yeah, later.